A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Today we welcome to 2020 Pastor Steve Kennedy. He's an Australian and international speaker. He runs a ministry called Bless the Bush, where he serves as pastor to the Outback pastors. And coming up in September and October, his ministry with local churches will be conducting a series of outreach events in Outback Queensland, set for Moranbah, Dysart and Middlemount, which they have titled Outback Outreach. He's here to tell us more about what it's like pastoring in the bush, these upcoming outreach events, and how you can be involved. Welcome to 2020, Steve Kennedy.
Great to be with you, Tosh.
Great to have you with us, mate. So can you tell us, Steve, how long have you been out there in the Outback working with these pastors for?
Well, Tosh, quite seriously, I'm a city boy, so I don't pretend to be a country boy, but I've pastored churches for 40 years, and wherever we've been able to, we've pointed our church toward the bush in terms of mission giving, sending busloads of people, door-knocking entire towns over the years. And now I'm not pastoring a church, so I'm doing it in a much more dedicated way.
And being able to be out there amongst the remote pastors, what are some of the challenges that we who are living in the city don't really even think about, the blokes who are out there on the coalface serving Jesus? What are some of their challenges, mate?
Well, in terms of the pastors, which is my main focus, Bless the Bush is there to support pastors, strengthen churches, and see people come to Christ. But we've got the movement of churches that I'm with, and there's around 300 just in the state of Queensland, and more than 30% of those are in regional areas, and 90% plus of those regional pastors have to go to work 9 to 5, 7:30 to 4, or farmers, tractor drivers. So they have to do everything I need to do. I am in awe of their work ethic, let me say.
Amazing,
that to you.
right? Yeah. It's a great inspiration for taking up our cross and following him, hey?
Yeah.
And so with the work that they're doing out there, obviously distance is a problem for managing time. What are some of the other challenges that they might face in their families, Steve?
With family life, you've got, say a child has a medical condition, and you just don't have a doctor around the corner. You can't. Everything you do has to be very clearly planned. There comes the loss of when kids get to university age. We're seeing a great drain out of the country. We're not talking churches now. We're talking towns. Losing the average age in Australia in the cities is around 38. The average age in the bush is 42.
Wow.
And that's quite a significant demographic age range when you go regional.
Takes a lot of single individuals to create such a significant statistical number, right?
Absolutely does, yeah.
And so they're feeling that in their families. They've gone out bush to serve Jesus with their kids, and all of a sudden the kids are in the city and they're out there.
Well, and a lot of them were born in the city. We've got a guy pastors a church in one of our smaller towns. He's a house painter in town.
Yeah.
Let me say too, I've got a friend pastors a church in a very small town. He's an electrician. I asked him, do you ever think there could be a time you could be like full-time? He clearly said to me, why would I want to do that?
Amazing.
I said, whoa, teach me. He said, Steve, I'm an electrician. I'm in every single person's home in this town.
Yeah.
So I have unbelievable connection in my town. So I don't think the folk in the bush need us to feel sorry for them in any way. Most of them are living their best life. In fact, they would all say, come on out to the bush. Houses are cheap. Buy your boy a motorcycle. Buy your girl a pony. Get yourself 10 acres for half the price of a house in the suburbs here.
Yeah, well said.
But I think, finance is not the currency out there. In the city, we talk about football scores. Everywhere you go in the city, they talk about rainfall. How much did you get in the gauge last night?
Yeah.
That's the talk out there. And encouragement is the super-duper currency out there, just keeping people connect. The isolation and remoteness is palpable.
Long distances between towns, lots of time spent on the road out of your day. So other kinds of challenges that city folk wouldn't quite understand, hey?
Well, we've got folk that to connect, they'll get together, say, as colleagues, say every 2 months, and they will travel as much as 1,500 kilometres to have a half-day connection with colleagues, which is like an altar boy getting an invite to the Vatican. To be quite honest, it is significant. And then they'll pack it all up and then they'll drive home again
For 15 hours.
for 15 hours and less.
Yeah. And your work with the pastors that are out there in the bush, Steve, they see themselves as local missionaries, I guess, hey? Working with local people who probably the pastor wouldn't, if he was a full-time pastor, wouldn't get to mingle with?
Absolutely. In fact, I spoke to one of our Outback pastors today, and he said, Steve, we need to start a movement where we see the bush and the Outback as a mission field. We have people that are going for 3 years to serve in other places offshore. If we could get people to say, I'm going to serve 3 years in the bush, it's an amazing opportunity. You don't get to pastor a church, you get to pastor a town. So we've got towns out there. Do you know 2.5 million people in Australia, minimum, live in towns under 10,000. And most of them live in towns under 5,000. And so to give 3 years of your life, say a mission stint, to say, I'm going to go out, my kids are in primary school. When we get to high school, there may be some different needs, but I'm going to give 3 years of my life. And I think actually God's got a bit of a smile on the Outback and the bush and the regions at this time. And I am just doing what I can. I want to be a support in the bush, but I want to be a trumpet in the city. To let people know in the city, hey, you're missing out. The bush is a great place to be.
I want to just dig into that thought that you had there, Steve, about the bush being a mission field. But if you go and pastor, you're not just pastoring a church, you're pastoring a community. For those who may not understand what that means around Australia, Steve, what could you tell us that means?
Well, you arrive in town and there's still a tremendous God consciousness in the Australian bush. And so you arrive in town, you're pretty soon the head of the Anzac Committee, or you sit on the disaster committee. There's a tremendous amount of turnover or a brain drain. As you know, the teachers are sent for 2 years. The police officers are sent for 2 years. We are not going to build the community through the church if our people stay for 2 years. So if we can get folk to go out and pastor a town, I walk down the street of one of our towns, 5,000 people, and I promise you every single person, bar a couple, identified the pastor as pastor in the street. And he's been there 30 years.
Wow.
And there are people in their 30s and 40s still calling him pastor because he taught them religious education at a primary school. He even says to them, don't call me pastor, call me Bob. But they can't. He is so revered, and his family is so revered. And they are at every single level of church. The police ring them when they need a chaplain.
Yeah.
The hospital rings them. They are integral to community life.
And so, Steve, what you're talking about there's a God consciousness in country Australia. How would you describe that as going back? Because I grew up in regional Queensland for 4 years in central Queensland, and it was extremely secular, extremely kind of hard-hearted to anyone in town who was a Christian. But you're seeing a change there. How would you describe that?
Well, we're seeing a change. Now, obviously, the bush is as diverse as the city. You've got towns that are strictly mining. I'm going to be in 3 of these towns in the next month.
Yeah.
And these 3 towns that I'll be in fact, were only founded in the 70s, specifically for mining.
For mines.
And so, you've got towns like that, but then you have other traditional towns. A town like Claremont that's had settlement for, say, 250 years. And the stories there and the God consciousness and the compounding God consciousness. Our pastor and his wife in Claremont, they've been there 25. They're city people. Yeah. He was born in Canberra, the nation's capital, and had never seen a horse, and then he ended up in the bush. But if you talk to him today, he'd tell you clearly, I was born in the wrong city. He is one of our most renowned horse breakers in the state. He tours and does shows. They just did a children's club where they come from all over that central Queensland, 140 kids, and they have it in a riverbed because the water only flows a couple of months a year. And it is absolutely dynamic to see the impact that these churches are having right across the community, not just, if you like, the folk in the walls of the church. They are revered right across the town.
Steve, what do you think is leading that openness now in this day?
Oh, open the newspaper. Look, we've got a troubled world. I actually think, and it's maybe I'm ideal, but there's a hope in me that there will be a transfer back to the bush. We need it. And I think God's shining on it, but maybe house prices are driving it too. Lifestyle is driving it as well. But I think in that regard, just the complexity of modern life, there's still a certain untouchedness to that effect in many of our country areas. Now, I want to be very clear. They are unbelievably intelligent, work hard people.
Absolutely.
They are the leaders of our nation and have been. Some of the greatest leaders of our nation, sporting stars, business people, have had their roots in the bush. And I don't think that'll change because it does develop a certain type of character and attitude that builds a community strong.
And Steve, when you go out to the bush to support and be there for these guys in the ministry, come alongside them with your capacity to encourage them there, but then trumpet what they're doing in the cities, what is it that you're finding your hands are doing out there in the bush as you support these guys?
Oh, wow. Well, Sundays I'm a preacher.
Yep.
But if I'm going out there on Thursday, I'm driving to Moranbah. That's 1,000 kilometres from where I live. So I've rung the pastors along the route that I'm taking. And so, and I'd encourage people to do this. This leads into how anyone can be involved. But if I'm going to go through a town, I'd find out who the local pastor is in my connected sphere. And I ring him and say, hey, can I meet you at the local bakery? Or if it's lunchtime, can we meet at the pub? And I'm sure that I shout him a dinner. And I don't let him just have a Caesar salad. He's got to have he's got to feel like, hey, this was an event. But I went through one town where I know pastors own a building, a home. I've got a trade background. So I said, hey, if I come a day early, can you use me for 24 hours? So, and when you can't be a specialist when you go to the bush.
Sure.
You're doing the youth meeting, the ladies meeting, the kids meeting. You go and helping someone dig a horse out of a bog. You're helping someone put up a fence. And because Bless the Bush is supporting pastors, strengthening churches, and seeing people come to Christ. And whatever that needs to happen for that to happen, I'm in.
Absolutely. I love the attitude, Steve, of just doing whatever it takes to go out there and win people to Christ. And in the traditional sense, many churches would run outreach events that are sort of more formalized, going out there and taking the gospel to the people in whatever way the country is doing it is not so much a new way, like your horse-breaking friend. There's innovative ways that are coming up for every generation. But coming up soon, you've got a public event that's happening in Moranbah, and then one in Dysart and one in Middlemount. What can you tell us across Australia about the Outback outreach?
Well, I've dedicated 15 weeks of my time this year to go Outback. I pastored 40 years, and I'm now in a position where I can go. So I've approached a pastor. He's looking after these 3 towns because we don't have pastors in all of these towns.
Wow.
He looks after one. I said, what if we come and do some gospel meetings on consecutive weekends in these towns? So we have letterboxed each of these towns. Moranbah's 10,000 people. It's a large town.
Yeah.
But Dysart is 2,500, Middlemount 1,900. So we're doing these back-to-back on weekends. We've hired public halls. Not in Middlemount. Middlemount has we've hired public halls because we want to strengthen all the churches.
Great.
not just the one he represents. He's he's got a big heart, Pastor Dave Davies and Tracy. But in Middlemount, there are no other churches operating. And so we'll use the church facility, which is an amazing facility. And everyone in town, of course, knows where it is.
And so on those evenings, it's going to be Saturday. This one for Moranbah is coming up this weekend on Saturday the 20th and 21st. What would be your message about how people could get involved for this weekend, Steve?
Just turn up. I mean, bodies in the room is absolutely important. I'll arrive in town on Friday. We'll have a prayer time on Saturday for believers.
Yeah.
And we have pre-stuff, sausage sizzle, face painting, all that type of pre-service stuff from 6. And then at 7 p.m., we've got a gospel rally. It'll be vibrant, great worship. I know other churches, the other churches in town are supporting it. So we're looking forward to a good time. That'll be Saturday night and Sunday night.
And so that's Moranbah this week, but then the following weekend, Saturday and Sunday, that's going to be Dysart, correct?
Dysart as well, correct.
Are we looking at the same kind of program?
Very similar program, Saturday night and Sunday night. Now, let me be clear, Middlemount, slightly different, Friday and Saturday night, because you don't put a meeting on the Sunday night of the NRL Grand Final.
Now you're talking, Steve. Now you're talking. Where the Broncos are going to win, I believe.
Well, we're hoping that there could be some local competition.
Very good. And Steve, if there are people like grey nomads that are out there with their Winnebagos or the same equivalent, what would be your encouragement to them to be a part of this?
You get in touch with me through Vision FM or through my website, blessthebush.com.au. I'll tell you where you can park your van, put up your tent. I know in Dysart we can provide you a shower for that couple of days at least.
Yeah.
And love to have you if you're passing through, or if you want to make a detour. It will well be worth you coming. And make sure you put your hand out and say, "G'day, I heard this on Vision FM."
Yeah, and so Steve, we've got Moranbah this weekend, we've got Dysart next weekend, and then the following weekend is Middlemount. So if you can, make your way to these areas. Find Steve at blessthebush.com.au. And Steve, just finally, if there is someone that's out there right now listening in and thinking about how could I go and be a bush pastor? How could I change my life? What would your advice be to them finally?
Well, I guess they should speak to their church leaders, whichever their denomination is, and see what they are doing there. If not, contact me on my website and we'll see what can happen.
Wonderful having you on today, Steve Kennedy. Thanks for joining us on 2020.
Thanks, Tosh.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.